Welcome back to the Savage Nation. So I think we've said enough about it. Let's see if more tapes come out and there's something in there. There's very good news out there. Dennis Kucinich lost his House seat. So the left-wing fanatic crybaby will have to go get a job probably for General Electric, where he can shill for those who pay no taxes, in my opinion. So there's something waiting for him. If they can take a street rat who was cheering on Freddie's Fashion Mart fire, there's room for Dennis Kucinich with all of the other miscreants on that channel. So let's play some sound of Ron Paul saying the GOP stance on Iran is reckless in clip number 12.
What the other Republicans are saying is very reckless. I mean, to talk about, already now, McCain is advocating in the Senate, why don't we start dropping bombs on Syria? And then they're so anxious to go to war. And it reminds me so much of our efforts before we went into Iraq to try to alert the people, look, let's pay attention to what's going on. Let's find the facts. But, Iraq was not a threat. They didn't have weapons of mass destruction. There was no al-Qaeda. I think the same thing is going on here. There is no evidence whatsoever that the Iranians have or are on the verge of getting a nuclear weapon, according to our own military people, our own CIA, according to the UN. So I think it's blown way out of proportion.
See, this is the problem with Ron Paul. He says something that makes sense in part, and then he launches into a screed against Israel. You got to understand why he has no traction. People do understand their rationality. They may not like the politics of this one or that one, but Ron Paul has a streak that's pretty mean in him, by the way, underneath all of that. But gosh, I'm an isolationist, and but gosh, it's America first, and well, let's be careful, but gosh, the good old neighborhood pharmacist kind of guy. How does he launch from not bombing Syria, which I agree with, and in the same sentence, without taking a breath, say that the Iranians have no bomb, no nuclear weapon? How does he go from Syria to Iran and put them in the same sentence? This is very reckless on the part of Ron Paul, and I'm glad to see that the American people know better than to vote for Nuron. Then we have Dennis Kucinich, thank God, losing a House seat. Let's hear 13 and 14 for our listening pleasure.
Many of you in this room have known me for years, and that I've lost campaigns before. And there's always a tomorrow. Don't cry any tears for me.
No, believe me, we won't. Dennis, we won't. No, let's pause right there, Dennis. We will not. The Savage Nation will not cry any tears for you. We are not the people on Jeffrey Immelt's puppeteer. We're not Jeffrey Immelt's puppeteers. But remember, you can always go back to your beginnings, Dennis. You could live in the back of a car. You could run for the mayor of a small city all over again. You can start all over again, Dennis. There's always a car. Since you have such empathy for the poor and the downtrodden and the homeless, I think you should consider going back to your roots. Get yourself a nice old Buick. They're pretty cheap, I hear. And you could always live in the back seat. You can cook in the front seat, Dennis. You know who threw him out of office, by the way? A fellow Democrat. They redistricted his state so that he would lose. And his former friend, Mrs. Capter, won. Could you believe this? The leftists eat their own, you got to understand. And they destroyed him. They got rid of him. They know he was a liability. There's one thing you got to say about them is they're true to form. The commie leftists eat their own, and they saw that his time had gone a long time ago. His kind of rhetoric was over a long time ago.